Hi, and welcome to the Kale Houser Leadership Secrets podcast. Today, my special guest is Angel Santos, host and creator of the Young Entrepreneur Mindset podcast and the Positive Sunday podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Kale Houser Leadership Secrets podcast. My name is Kale Houser, your host tonight, and thank you for joining me. Today, it is my privilege and honor to welcome a special guest, Angel Santos, who is a host of not only one, but two podcasts, the Young Entrepreneur Mindset podcast and the Positive Sunday podcast. Angel, it's very few people that run two podcasts. First of all, thank you for joining me. I'm super excited to get to talk to you and hear about your journey and all the exciting things that are happening in your life, and especially with what you've got going on with your podcast. So thank you for joining
thank
me
you,
tonight.
Kale. Thank you. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate the invite. This is my rookie. This is my rookie guest episodes. This is my first one here, so I appreciate it. I'm honored. I'm very honored. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, the first of you'll end up being like, what is it, Steve Martin on the Saturday Night Live show, right? Where he's like a 20-timer
Exactly.
or something like that. For the next 30 years, we'll be talking
That's
to each
right.
other. I love it.
I love it, bro.
Yes. So one of the things that attracted me to you and to want to really reach out to you was this Young Entrepreneur Mindset podcast that you run. And then it was later that I found out you also do this Positive Sunday podcast. And I really want to dive into that a little bit. And one, what's the purpose of it? Well, you can kind of tell by the title, but why Young Entrepreneur Podcast? What drew you to that topic?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Other than the fact that everyone is doing this podcasting now, with the pandemic, of course, hit, and people start being, creative, right? It was not too much to do outdoors, so everyone started doing. So, I started. I did my homework. Before I get into a project, I always do my research, right? And then when I create something, I want to know who's going to be my audience, why they're going to be my audience, right? What it's going to be about. So I have to have a title. I have to have my logo. So as you can see, obviously, I have my shirts and stuff that I created, and for the purpose of that, maybe later down the road, once I could get the brand out there and maybe do a little clothing line or apparel. You know what I'm saying? And just have that out there and get the podcast recognized, right? Everybody, I see there you have your leadership as well and your background. That's awesome. And everyone needs that, right? Because everyone wants to be creative. Entrepreneurs, we're all creative. We all are leaders in a certain way. So the reason for the podcast that I started it initially was to connect with great-minded entrepreneurs, because I wanted to learn myself, because it was for the benefit of me first. I wanted to learn other entrepreneurs, how they got started, not only how they got started, but what obstacles, what detours they ran into, what walls, right? What speed bumps they encountered during the process and maybe after the process, because through their experience, it's going to help me, and it's going to help me learn and grow as an entrepreneur. So that was the reason why I created that podcast.
Right. Yeah. And I'm assuming, just for clarification's sake, that you're not only interested in 20-something-year-old entrepreneurs, but this is more the young at heart and young in maybe experience.
Right, because when obviously the name Entrepreneur Mindset Podcast was out there, so I had to add the Young Entrepreneur Mindset Podcast, and it brought to me to think about it before I actually Google. And when I Googled, nobody had it, so I was like, oh, that's a plus, right? Because the Google search, it comes up first. Thank God. That's a blessing right there. But the young, the young, and you're right. It's not about the age. It was more about that young mindset, right? When you think about young mindset, if you ask any young, not just an entrepreneur, any young adult, right, between the age of 13 to 18, and you tell them what do you want to be when you grow, you know what I'm saying? They will eat you up. Like they will tell. They have this world is big, right? But as we get older, then it starts minimizing, right? So that's why I wanted that young mindset, because the younger generation is always hungrier, and their vision and their mind was more amplified. It's bigger, it's wider. So that's why the young. So I tell people.
Yeah, and that's something.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say that's something that we all understand, like as a fundamental, because at one point we were that person. But as we get older, that just that steady chipping away, life experiences, disappointments, things not working out how we wanted
Exactly.
to. You didn't get accepted onto the fire department like you wanted to, and you're not an astronaut.
Doctor, lawyer.
And yeah. If we could keep ourselves in that, no matter what, that world of possibility is still possible. And I love that you're focusing on that, because that is an attitude that so few people have, especially after a couple setbacks or failures.
Absolutely
or whatever
right.
it is that's happened, that they kind of lose that. I don't know if innocence is the right word, but definitely that optimism of what's
Exactly.
possible.
Exactly. So
Yeah,
that's why I created that,
that's really
and
cool.
then I started just reaching out to different entrepreneurs. Like I said, different background, different religion, different. It didn't matter. Different parts of the country. I just wanted to reach out and learn from others.
Right.
So and I'm still learning. I'm still learning from a lot of entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is definitely, I like that you mentioned that. You're honest in your evaluation of kind of your reasoning to do it, is for you to learn from, for your own edification, your own education. And I can say I'm very similar in that too. I started my podcast because I wanted the opportunity to provide a platform for people like you that I can learn from, but also really for me to just talk out publicly my own thoughts on leadership and business and all the different types of things that I talk about.
Exactly.
And it's that kind of therapy session that doesn't cost you too much
Yeah,
money.
yeah. No, and like you're doing with me now, you're allowing me to promote my brand and my product. So that's another reason why I did the
Right.
podcast too, because I wanted people to bring all their tools, bring your brand, whether it's a brand that's well known or is not known or it was just born. I want them to use my platform.
Right.
And I tell them I have my YouTube channel, Twitter,
Yeah.
Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. So all those platforms, I'm going to promote you, your book, your music, whatever it is
Yeah.
that you have, and let's promote you. It's free promotion. Who doesn't like free promotion? Come on.
Right. Right. Not very
Yeah.
many people.
Apparently, right?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Right. Now, we have talked previously about this concept of being, and you've kind of admitted that you're a quote unquote late
Yeah.
entrepreneur. Can you expand a little bit about that? And it goes kind of hand in hand with your podcast, The Young Entrepreneur Mindset. What does that mean, and how do you, what's the right word that I'm looking for? Kind of make that all
Okay.
happen
Yeah. No, it makes sense.
without feeling that you've missed the boat.
Exactly. Well, I think that we have to go in order to answer that question the correct way. We probably have to go back, right? Like way back to the roots where it all started. And
Okay.
I could say that in my
Right.
youth, right, as a young child, I was raised by my grandparents, which nothing against that, right? My mom she was very young when she had me, but my grandparents were very hardworking people. So in that environment that I grew up, I
Right.
saw a family that was very well together, right? I come from a big family. We're all very close and whatnot. Um, but as far as like
Nice.
business wise and entrepreneur, we didn't have that grandfather, that had his own business. Or they were hardworking people, right? So they had that hard. Their because
Right.
their parents probably taught them that you get a good education, you go to work, you work hard, and you save for retirement, and then you retire. So that's what I was, pretty much
Right.
had seen in my youth. So that's why later down the road, okay, even after high school, I just graduated high school. I did some community college and whatnot. But then I started working because to me it was like the
Right.
harder I work, the more time that I work and sell my personal time for money, then I'm gonna be okay. And then I'll just wait until I'm old and retire. That was my mindset. See. So then
Right.
later,
Yeah.
now
Yeah. And
fast.
hopefully your body is still there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now fast forward to recently, the past 5 or 6 years, I ran to like a Grant Cardone and whatnot, and I start hearing this, entrepreneurship and millionaire and business and that. So I'm hearing
Yeah.
this. Oh, I'm like, wow, this is all new to me. Where was this, 25, 30 years ago?
Right.
It would have been great. I'll probably be
Yeah.
a different lifestyle now, but it's okay. It's never too late though. It's never too late. So
Yeah.
don't, I encourage any late entrepreneurs,
Right.
just, hey, get on the boat. Just be creative. We have the tools.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And there, I mean, even Grant Cardone didn't really make it big until I think he was in his late
50s.
50s or early
That's
60s,
right.
you know, as far as,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and the business world is rife with examples of that,
That's
you
it.
know, Kathy Truitt with Chick-fil-A and, you know, certainly Colonel Sanders, right?
KFC.
I think he was
Yeah.
65, wasn't he? When he, yeah, you know, developed KFC and stuff. Like, it's, if that is your sticking and stopping point, that you're like, oh, I'm too old to do this, then you've got a lot of other issues that you need to come to terms with before
Exactly.
that, because that really is not a sticking or stopping point
Yeah.
for anybody.
Yeah.
You know, as long as you've got the wherewithal to do
Exactly.
it. Yeah, that's pretty
Yeah.
neat. So what was that for you? So you were introduced to this kind of new world to you at this point of out of the work for somebody else and hope to retire at a decent pension someday into, okay, now you have this young entrepreneurial mindset of the world is open for possibilities. What did that look like for you, and what did you choose to do? Like, how did that work out?
What you mean, like for the entrepreneurship and stuff? Because actually, for for
Correct.
that,
Yes.
I've been always been in banking, right? I've always been in the workforce, of course. I started banking back in 2004, right? So I figured that in
Okay.
banking, because someone told me, hey, go into a bank. If you go to a bank and you work 20, 25 years, you get a good pension, you get a good retirement. So that was my mindset. Somebody else put that in my mind, so I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. So I was doing that in
Yeah.
2004, right? Yeah, great tip. So in 2004 I did
Right.
that, and then all of a sudden, I think, when I met Grant Cardone, like in 2015, I mean, my mindset, I started hearing different things and whatnot. And then, out of the blue, opportunity came in 2019, and I left the banking industry. I had left the banking industry, and I was going straight cold turkey on entrepreneurship. Didn't know what was going to be expected.
Cool.
I helped a friend of mine take a product,
Right.
right, a physical product, and try selling on Amazon, and sell. So I started getting my sales skills and started developing that in certain areas and whatnot. And then I loved it. To be honest, I really loved it. I loved it because i I
Yeah.
saw like this free time that I had so much spare time I had, and I was managing my own time, and I was like, wow, this feels different because I felt like I was
Right.
so tied to a shift, to an hourly wage, and it felt like I wasn't happy,
Yeah.
right? And so when I experienced this entrepreneurship, I was like, oh wow, this is a whole different world, and I'm in control of it. They're not in control of me. So that was the experience that I
Right.
that I experienced at that time. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think what you're kind of touching on and alluding to is that economy of your potential. That at a bank, you can be the hardest working dude there, right? Or you can be the laziest dude there as long as you're meeting the minimums and you're making the same amount of money. Yeah, the other guy might get promoted a little bit faster than you, but if you stick around, you're going to get there
Exactly.
eventually. Versus as an entrepreneur, and certainly what you went down that path of, man, you can just go crazy, and then your potential for income and revenue goes exponentially through the
It,
roof versus just staying, like, yep, I work 10 hours today and I get, $100 or whatever that
yeah,
is.
and it depends on you.
Yeah,
Like, you're in control
that's
of
a
your
pretty good point.
finances. You Whatever you hustle and do and make, that's what you're gonna make.
Right.
Like, there's no limits. Whatever you want.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
what entrepreneur is for me.
Yeah. But on the flip side, if you decide to hit the beach every day and sleep in
Uh
a
huh.
little, folding of the hands to
That's
rest,
right. Yeah.
that's the other thing of it
Yeah.
too. Yeah, that's the scary part. Is like, oh yeah, it's still on me
Yeah.
for both
Then that's a good
directions.
point, because that's when you're talking about the
Yeah,
comfort
yeah,
zone. If you get into that comfort zone,
right,
then that's where it's dangerous, because you don't want to get into that zone. You want to get into the work.
right,
You want to stay in that workflow zone.
right,
Just keep working for your dreams, and keep working, keep plusing. Just don't stop.
right,
Yeah.
right. Now, you have a relatively young family, and certainly younger at this point. How old when you decided to do that? Quit the security of the bank job and what you had known up to that point. How did your family take that? Your kids, wife, how
Yeah.
old were they at that
No,
point?
my daughter is right now. She's 10, so that was like 2, 3 years ago, really. So she was
Okay,
like 8, 7, 8 years old. She didn't
okay,
understand. She's going to school and whatnot. So, but for my wife, yeah, my wife was kind of like,
right,
I talked to her about it. We did talk about it. I said, listen, this opportunity is coming, and I feel that, financially, it's not going to be a burden on either one of us. It's going to be okay. It's going to be manageable. I feel that it's going to be something that I
Right.
want to experience, and she's very, very supportive, and I went through with it and whatnot, and she, because she trusts me, she trusts me in being, the head of household, sort of say, right, and whatnot, and
Right.
it worked
Right.
out. It worked out because for me, to be honest, as a decision, right, and as you supporting your family, it is also something to consider. You can't just go, just do it just because, oh,
Right.
I'm going to give it a try. No, yeah, I make sure that my numbers were there, the budget wise, everything was there. There wasn't going to be anything
Right.
coming off track or anything like that. So I did my homework. That's for sure.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good, and that's the difference I think between an older young entrepreneur versus a young entrepreneur is you can't go into it with a half and half. Am I going to fail? Am I going to succeed? It's
No.
like, no, you need to, like you said, do your research, and while it's not guaranteed by any stretch of the
Right.
imagination, it is a high probability with the right amount of effort
Exactly.
and education to make it
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. So, and good on you that you've created and you have a family environment where you have a spouse that is supportive of that, and good on you to recognize to involve
Yeah.
her in that process instead of just like, oh, I quit my job today.
Exactly.
We're gonna go do this now.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Right?
No.
Yeah. So that's pretty awesome because not
Yeah. Not everybody does
yeah,
that.
not everyone has
Mm-hmm.
that.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was
That's
it was
pretty.
a transit. We When we
Now,
transitioned, it was a slow transition. It wasn't something overnight. It was a slow transition, but
right.
it definitely was a big
Right.
change in my life.
Right. Right. Now, how do you? I don't know if balance is the right word, because I don't necessarily believe in, at least me personally, in work-life balance. How do you decide, and the ebb and flow of effort and attention and priority? How do you decide between those sometimes very conflicting worlds between family time versus I've got to get this business built and going to be
Yeah,
viable? Like, how does that come into play in your thinking and
yeah.
planning?
No, that's a great question. I mean, it's all about. First of all, you have to have what we have is a planner. You gotta have this. You gotta have the
Yes.
planner.
Yeah.
You gotta write things down. As an entrepreneur, as a leader, you have to write things down. You have to have a priority. Right? I plan my day. For example, this is what I do. This is a tip here. I plan my day the day before.
Yeah.
Right? Like tomorrow, I already know what I'm gonna do
Mm-hmm.
in the morning, the afternoon, and the evening, and even at night.
Right.
Because even then at night, I'm ready for the next day. See, there's nothing I can control. If like today,
Right.
if I say, oh, what I'm gonna do Wednesday morning, well, it's done. It's already done with. Wednesday morning is gone. What am I gonna do?
Right.
Oh man, you know what? Oh, I didn't hit this goal. Man, you know what? Today at 1 o'clock, I was supposed to call this person. Oh my god! And then, you stay stuck, kind of like backpedal, right? You backpedaling. Oh man, I missed the
Right.
appointment over here. So you just have to like there's certain things that you're gonna miss. That's fine. Just keep moving forward, though. Prepare for the next one. Don't get stuck
Yeah.
behind because you're gonna be, slapping yourself, in the back, and you dummy, man. Why didn't you call this? But you didn't come. You didn't reach out,
Right.
and it's like, no, no, no. Don't be so hard on yourself. Just keep going forward. So put your priorities in order. What's the most important thing for you to accomplish
Okay.
tomorrow? That's tip number one. What's the most important thing for tomorrow?
Right.
Okay, you have a podcast. Let's say if I had a podcast tomorrow at 4 o'clock, I have to get ready for that podcast, not at 3:59. Okay, you have to get ready for that podcast the
Right.
2 3 days before. You have everything ready. Okay, I
Right.
wish you could see what I have here. I have my social medias over here, which you cannot see, but I have my phones that are live right now and sharing with my audience. See?
Cool.
Okay, because I
Yeah.
could have just been like, I don't feel like doing it. Well, why not? Just do it. Have everything ready. But when
Right.
you sent me the link and everything, I was here at 6:29. I was here at 6:29. Water, everything
Right.
ready. Let's go. thirty
Ready to
minutes. The
go.
leaders always get there
Yeah.
early.
Yeah. I like it.
And that's
I
your
like
priority.
it.
You have to be there
And that
early.
is a great tie-in. Yeah. and I appreciate that tie-in with the leadership aspect of it. What has been, if you don't mind, a little bit on the spot, what has been one of the major practical leadership, whether it's a principle or a tip or an event that has happened to you that you really has become part of core of who you are and how you see leadership? If you have
I
one.
think, to be honest, when I became a father, that was
Interesting.
my leadership right there.
Yeah. How so?
Yep.
Yeah.
Because, when you see someone that looks up to you, my daughter, she really looks up to me, and she sees in me
Yeah.
a lot of potential, and of course, yeah, the love is there, but as a father, you have to uh, prepare yourself to be that leader in that person that looks up to you and admires you, and so much that no matter what, because a child is always, no matter what, how old, you can ask about their parent. You have to have a good relationship, obviously. Hey, how was your father? And if they had that great relationship,
Right.
man, they're gonna say, man, my father was the best. My mom was,
My hero.
she
Yeah.
worked her butt off to make sure I had everything. You see, so that's
Yeah.
where I say, as a father, and also as a father, also as a late entrepreneur, I became a late father as well, because I was able to, enjoy my teen years and
Right.
20s, and then in the my late 30s is when I got married and then had my first child. So
Right, right.
yeah,
Yeah, that's really cool. And I love that you talk about that because that's not something that we talk about in the sense of leadership very much is fatherhood, especially for
yeah,
fathers. Because I think what's unique to being a father, and whether you're a father of young, of girls or of boys, young ladies or young men, is, at least for me, and maybe I'm talking purely for me, but I think I get a sense of that from you as well. Of we feel like we have to earn it a little bit, with our kids. It's not just
no,
automatic. You can't just show up and expect things to be awesome. You have to actually work at it and earn it. Earn that right to call yourself their
yeah,
father. And be that leader in their life to show them. Yeah, because I think that's what we all want is, yeah, when our kids are in their 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s, and they go, yeah, my
yeah,
dad did nothing but provide for me. Did nothing. He
exactly.
was my hero versus the my dad was kind of around.
Yeah, yeah, it all depends.
Yeah,
It all
that's really
depends.
cool.
But in the workforce,
Yeah.
I did,
Right.
develop leadership. But how did I develop those leadership skills in the workforce was, obviously I came in through entry level and then worked my way up. But it was always
Right.
communicating. I think that's the most important skill is the communication, always in hand with
Yeah.
my management team and whatnot, and always being communicative, honest, open, on time. So those skills that were in me helped me develop my leadership skills, even to go into like management in the workforce as well. I've gone to up
Right.
to that level as well. So yeah,
Yeah. Which is a perfect, because I always ask my question of all my guests is, what's your difference in your interpretation between a manager and a leader in a business environment in the
exactly.
work sense? Do you have an interpretation of that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. I mean, management is what you see, and nothing against managers. So all due respect to any manager that's listening
Right.
right now. It's not nothing against us. Us
Yeah.
entrepreneurs, like, oh, these entrepreneurs, they think that they're better than us. No, no, no. We're not better than anybody. We just have a different skill set and different mindset. Okay, so management is what it is. There's nothing to go deep into it. They just manage.
Right.
They manage certain scenarios. They manage people. They manage our
Right.
organization. That's what they do. They manage. So they're out to, someone is telling them above them how to, do what they do. So they, it's like a downstairs effect. This one, the top CEO says, I need you to do this, and then the manager says this, and then the regional says this, the executive
Right.
says this, the manager, the supervisor, then the employee. And then people say, "Oh, I don't like
Right.
pyramids. Oh, don't talk to me about pyramids." Well, you're actually in a pyramid. You're
Right.
actually in a pyramid.
Yeah.
That's a little
Yeah.
tip
Big
out there.
time.
But that's the difference between management. Managements, they manage. Leaders. Now, when you're talking about leaders, that's the difference. They lead.
Yeah.
They make other people great. They build other people. They duplicate themselves in other people.
Mm.
That's very powerful. Duplication. You have to duplicate yourself in other people. Make other people superior of you. Like, what if the student becomes superior of the teacher? Hey, that's a good leader then. But there's some leaders that
Right.
they want to be on top of the
Right.
time. That's not a leader. That's a manager.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I love it. And kind of the sense of what you're saying is leaders are kind of outward focused, not so much, the
Inward.
inward and look at me type
Absolutely.
of people.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it.
Absolutely.
I love it. Now, in the beginning, we talked about this second podcast, and I would be absolutely remiss if we did not talk about your second podcast a little bit. First of all, that's amazing that you find the time to do that. So
Thank you.
congratulations on that and your ability and willingness and dedication to do that, because I don't know that I would be able to do that. So that's phenomenal. But so tell us, it's Positive Sunday podcast,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Positive
Yeah.
Sunday podcast. Tell us about that a little
Oh,
bit.
Positive Sunday podcast, because even years ago, I attended a church and whatnot, and then I understood that I have a calling as a pastor. Uh, so as a pastor, and I have
Okay,
pastor
good.
friends, so I have both worlds, right? The best of both worlds. I have entrepreneur friends, realtors, musicians, etc., and entrepreneurs that have their own business and whatnot here in Florida and throughout the
Yeah.
whole U.S. So then one day, even it was in April of this year, because this podcast had turned 1 year. The
Oh,
Young Entrepreneur Mindset podcast turned 1 year, April 18th of 2022. Yeah, thank you. So it took
congratulations.
1 year. So, of
Awesome.
course, as an entrepreneur, always looking for new challenges, I said, okay, this podcast is already a year old. Let's look for the other baby, right? Let's look for
Yeah.
the brother. So
Right,
right? Like
right.
parents, like, oh, let's go for the other kid. Okay, this one's a one. It's already big. It's time to have the other one. So that was my kind of like my mindset, right?
Now you have
Yeah,
twins.
twins. So okay, this one's already big and he's growing by himself. He could walk. He could do his own thing. So let's focus on something else. So, as an entrepreneur, looking for new
Right.
challenges and whatnot. Then just before the summer hit, I was like, for my Christian friends, pastors that I know, even on social media, I meet pastors, you know, evangelists, and from all types of work, background and whatnot. So I said, you know what, let me start to create. So that I started again looking to see the name and blah blah blah. And then next thing you know, Positive Sunday Podcast was just born. Just like that. And then, that was just for Sundays. So I said, okay,
Cool.
well, if it's on Sunday, then obviously we have to focus on just Sundays. And then I like to do my pre-recording as well, because some people with Sundays, the what I ran into a challenge was some people, they already attend their congregation, they go to church, it's their family day, they don't want to do nothing on Sunday, they don't
Right.
want to hear no invitation for a podcast. So I was like, okay, so what am I going to do? So I could pre-record
Right.
Friday or
Yeah.
Saturday, and then I'll launch it, to go live on Sunday, whatever time I pick. So, and that was it, and that's just as simple as that. And then
Perfect.
the newborn podcast for all of my Christian friends out there. It's available. So anyone out there that listens to this and wants to be a part of that podcast as well, then there's no way that anyone could say no. It's like, oh well, I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm a Christian. I'm a pastor. Well, then I have a podcast for you too.
Right. Right. I love
Yeah,
it. I love it. Now, now that you've been going with this for a little bit with your second baby,
yeah.
do you have a favorite right now that
No, no, no,
you
no.
are we allowed to
Yeah,
ask
yeah,
that
yeah. But
question?
no, the
No.
answer is no. They both my favorite
I love them
equally.
equally.
Hmm.
Yeah. You're spoken like a true father.
Exactly.
I love it.
Yeah, man.
Well, that's really fascinating. And I know it's going to be an absolute success for you. Just listening to you the last, what have we been going, 20 or 30 minutes,
Yeah.
and hearing the passion that comes across evident in your voice, and why you're doing it, because your intentions are pure. I know it's going to be nothing but a success for you.
Thank you.
So
Appreciate that. Appreciate
congratulations
that.
on it. That's pretty
Yeah.
awesome. Yes. Now, if people have been listening and they're going, man, this angel guy's got it going together. Like, how do people get into your world if they want to start, following you, contacting you? What's the best way for
Yeah, I
that?
mean, Facebook under Angel Santos. You can also find the podcast Facebook, Young Entrepreneur Mindset Podcast, or the Positive Sunday Podcast. All the
Cool.
social media accounts. YouTube, though, YouTube is under Your Podcaster TV. That one I did kind of create kind of differently. Your Podcaster TV.
Okay.
Yeah, just like your podcaster. Just your favorite
Gotcha.
podcaster. So your podcast TV on YouTube,
Right.
that's the channel there. Or if you put, the name of the podcast on YouTube, you also find it there as well. It'll link you either way. So then,
Right.
Instagram,
Cool.
TikTok and whatnot. And that's it. Those are the ones that I use mainly.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And there will be links to all of those accounts in the description, whether you're watching this on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcasting platform. So make sure you subscribe and get involved in Angel's world, because sounds like he's got some pretty amazing stuff in the works, and we can all use a little bit more positivity in our life.
Yeah, especially with all this craziness. That was another reason why I came up with it too, because all this madness that we hear in the news and stuff, and I want to bring something more positive, more of a positive message. Yeah, bring more people hope and whatnot.
Which is a good point. Yeah, because we keep saying like, oh, just turn off the news, right? But people still have to do something, right? And you're providing that alternative to that.
That's right.
Good on you.
Thank you. Great. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Angel, for hanging out with me for the last little bit and being willing to donate your time and lend the tale of your development as a young entrepreneur and your journey, and that some of those other young entrepreneurs, whether they be young at heart or young in years, can really learn and take note from some of the things that you've shared with us today. So thank you.
Absolutely, man. I thank you for the opportunity. I'm very, very blessed and very honored. Thank you.
Yeah. Last thing, do you have anything coming up that you want to share about with the audience? Projects or big developments that maybe you want to showcase?
No, now the next season for the podcast is going to be now for the fall. I don't have a set schedule yet. I do have a lineup of people that are interested being on the podcast. So, but now that the fall is going to be coming like mid-August, late August, I'm going to be again, throwing out more content, getting more people, the opportunity to be on the platform with us. So that's pretty much the next project, because the fall season coming up now.
Cool. Mm-hmm. I love it. So we will make sure and tune in for all of that and get notified when you start dropping some new episodes. That'll be pretty fun.
Absolutely.
Well, again, man, I really appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun for me to be able to kind of get a peek into your world and see how the mind of Angel Santos works.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I'll be looking forward to this episode. Thank you.
All right. Okay, everybody. Well, this has been the Kale Houser Leadership Secrets podcast. My guest has been Angel Santos, the host and founder of the Young Entrepreneur Mindset podcast and the Positive Sunday podcast. Make sure you check those out on your favorite podcast platform. Give him some likes and subscribes and comments and share the love. You will not be remiss, and it will not be time wasted to check those out. No matter where you are at in the world, have a fantastic afternoon. Bye.
Take care.